actually a building. In this case, this is one of ENoLL members, UVT Digital and Green Living Lab, a living lab hosted by a university in Romania. And as I said, it's a building. But living labs are not just physical spaces. Indeed, more than a physical space, a physical environment, it's a methodology. Let's see together the official description. So, the definition of living labs is that they are open innovation ecosystem in real-life environments based on a systematic user co-creation approach that integrates research and innovation activities in communities, placing the citizen at the center of innovation. But what does it mean? It means that in the context of living labs, both open innovation and user-centered innovation are the principle that guides the collaborative and participatory approach to research and innovation. And citizens here are at the center of this process. But we will see that there are not only citizens, because the living labs envision a more global approach. Oh, it seems that I don't have the control anymore. Okay. So indeed, living labs can facilitate open innovation and co-creation because they provide a platform, an efficient platform for all different stakeholders from the quadruple helix to be actively involved in these processes, so to collaborate and to co-create solutions. And in this way, since they can co-create solutions, they can ensure that living labs can ensure that the results, the innovation that they obtain includes and are adapted to the different stakeholder needs and interests. So they are more efficient. But when we talk about the quadruple helix models, what do you think we are talking about? We are talking about actually a model that includes and interact with the 4 pillars of all innovation ecosystems that in this case are divided between knowledge institutions, so academia, enterprises, so industry, government, and citizens, so the civil society. And living labs operates as the intermediaries among them. So they give them a platform to exchange ideas, to discuss, to collaborate in different occasions, in different innovations, giving them the opportunities to officialize their interest, to say, we need this and we want this to be the innovation. So what we understand from this is that living labs are characterized by a multi-stakeholder approach. So, as I was saying, not only citizens are at the very heart of living labs, but the whole range of stakeholders from the quadruple helix with different interests, needs, and peculiarities. And as you can see, the key principle of dealing with the quadruple helix model is to build trust among stakeholders, because trust will be what will ensure your living lab success. And now, let's see together the different types of living labs. Because as I was saying, if the living labs are characterized by a multi-stakeholder approach, and if each stakeholder has a different environment behind with different interests, needs, and challenges, it's of course also, wait, I don't know why sometimes I cannot change the slide. Okay. It's normal that we also have different types of living labs. So I will not dive into this table for now. You will have the opportunity to check the slides also after the training. But I want to say that it's important to understand that even if we give you a sort of summary of the different types of living lab that are out there, it's obvious that according to the different societies and the different interest of a specific society, of a specific environment, the living labs types can change. For example, we know that there are urban and rural living labs. We know for sure that there are more focus-oriented, energy-oriented living labs. But these are only main categories because as societies are different and are characterized by diversity, also living labs are. And for example, if we talk about a urban living lab, you will see that the Living Lab focus will be about urban environment, so about citizens, about cities, about the quality of life in a city. And if we think about a rural living lab, the focus will change and will move to rural areas. So the quality of life there, the quality of work in such areas. And the topics will be, for example, agriculture, soil health, rural health. So they will differ according to the topic. Oh, what happened? Sorry, this was a spoiler. Sorry for that. So in an agricultural living lab, agri-rural, we will have, as you already seen by the spoiler, different people. So we will have researchers, we will have advisors, we will have farmers, cultivation experts, new technologies, suppliers, retailers, and customers. And what you can understand from here is that if you focus your living lab on a specific topic, which could be agriculture, you will not have just farmers. So you will not take into consideration just farmers' needs or interests, but you need to include in your activities, in your mission, in your vision, in your long-term goals, all different parts of the quadruple helix that are interested in that specific topics, and that can bring to your living lab feedback, resources, knowledge, experience to make it better and to help you reach out to your results, your goals. But now, as we have so many things to say for what a living lab is, we will see with Spella what actually living labs are not.
Great, thank you, Noemi. So here we just put 3 different examples of what are not living labs, but are somehow perhaps mistaken for living labs. So what we have is a test bed. So living lab is not a test bed, but it could be a test bed could be considered a pre-living lab because this is a controlled experimentation environment. And as we know, in a living lab, we are not working in a controlled space or controlled environment. We're working in a real life environment. It's also not a fab lab, which is a small scale workshop offering digital fabrication. And then finally, a living lab is also not a home lab, which focuses on testing and adapting new technologies based on their fit with their daily home environment. So just to have then a clear understanding of a living lab being its own specific term and methodology. And as we also mentioned earlier, so in the grant agreement, we say we'll be building living labs at this macro level. So let's see then what this actually means and what this 3-layer model is that has been introduced. So this is based on the work cited here by Dr. Dimitri Schurman, who is working in a Belgian-based living lab, actually. And it proposes an overview of the application of the living lab methodology based on the different levels and different layers. So we have here the macro level on top, the meso, and the micro. And what we see is that this macro level is actually a well-structured organization. So here we have a living lab constellation. Here you are essentially, a living lab is operating on an organizational level. And then this living lab is actually working with different organizations, is practicing the principles of open innovation, practicing the living lab methodology in essentially all of their activities. And then on the meso level, we see that this actually refers to different living lab projects. So for instance, you are working on a specific project, as we do in Enforce, and you are using the living lab methodology. So you only use it on this specific project versus on the macro level. That means you're using it in every single project activity that you do. And then we have the micro level. So these are very individual living lab research steps and different specific living lab activities. So here we are referring, for instance, to different tools. And just to also look at this model from, let's say, a more practical perspective. So on the macro level, what Noemi has presented, we would have this living lab that is the UBT Living Lab from Romania. So they're working together on a partnership. They're using the Living Lab methodology in all of their activities. The meso level would be, for instance, working in the Enforce project or any other project for that matter, using the Living Lab methodology, practicing the guiding principle of it, involving the quadruple helix stakeholders. And then micro level would be using it in very specific tools. So for instance, what we can see here in terms of the engagement and similar tools that can be used for that. And what we aim to achieve, as we said, is that in this project, we would develop living labs on a macro level. And that also means that the approach is a little bit different. And the way, for instance, how we do training is also different as well, because it's not only understanding the living lab methodology, but it's truly applying it and applying it to multiple activities. So you have multiple also connecting projects where you apply it, and that would essentially be the goal.